Background: fighting the bad guys, fighting crime. He started a career in the Federal Bureau of Investigations, rose through the ranks, became the head of the office of the FBI in Memphis, Tennessee, Dallas, Texas, and Los Angeles, California at different times. Again, his job was to get the bad guys, the criminals, the ones that are trying to hurt us and our children and to bring us all more safety. However, since he quit the FBI, he retired early, I should say, he came across some incredible information and more of it all the time as far as the fact that unfortunately criminality has permeated, gotten into the United States government at the highest places. And he's going to give you a background of his research on for how long, some of these things have been going on with the U.S. government, and perhaps what you can do now. But please help me give a warm hand of welcome to our next speaker, from Las Vegas, Nevada, Mr. Ted Gunderson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What a great crowd you have here at Paymon. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm sure not disappointed. I hope that I can keep you awake because that was a great lunch. And you folks that are over there on the exhibits, if you'd be kind enough to sit down, and I have a very strong message for you. Okay? Well, let me just say this, that I think I know what the next terrorist weapon will be. And what happened is on September the 8th of last year, I had a call from a source, one of my sources. He said, Ted, I think I know what the next terrorist weapon will be used against us in the United States. And he went on to explain that his brother was a crop dusting pilot in South Dakota. And his brother, just before that, a few weeks before that, had noticed an individual taking pictures of his crop dusting airplane, and he called the sheriff. And the sheriff came out and arrested him. He found pictures of other crop dusting planes. He found pictures of dams. And he learned that this individual, who my source says was an Arab, the sheriff claimed later he was a Korean, had rented a car in Minneapolis after flying from San Diego, had driven that car throughout North and South Dakota. Now, if you know anything about North and South Dakota, it's 500 miles across and about another 400 or 500 north and south. The sheriff asked him what he was doing, and he said he was meandering around looking for butterflies. Yeah, right. So the sheriff fingerprinted him, photographed him, notified the FBI. The FBI said, let him go. The FBI did not seem to have much interest in it. He went back drove back to Minneapolis, flew to San Diego, and sent the sheriff an email saying he'd arrived safely, sarcastically, of course. So anyway, this happened just before my source on September 8th told me, I think, what the next terrorist attack is going to be. The pilot, the crop dusting pilot in South Dakota, is a pretty intelligent guy. He's been a crop dusting pilot in the Middle East for years, and he put together what he thought was the next terrorist attack and the weapon that would be used by them. I didn't think much of it until the next day, September the 9th, on the occasion of the 56th anniversary of the founding of North Korea. A huge cloud bomb over a mountain near the Chinese border exploded. It was 3.5 to 4 kilometers, or almost 2.5 miles in diameter. Everything under it was demolished and crushed. It crushed the top of the mountain. The next day, 2 days later, I started following it then. On September the 12th, a U.S. government spokesman on CNN commented that they were aware of the explosion and it was, quote, no big deal. Of course, right? So what I did, I felt this way about it. I said, if I put this information out on the internet, maybe, just maybe, we can prevent the next terrorist attack from occurring. Because I reasoned that if somebody had told the American public before 9/11 that they were going to fly planes into those towers, just maybe the government would not have allowed it to happen. And you and I know the government allowed it to happen. As a matter of fact, the government is involved in this terrorist attack, 9/11. And it goes back further than that, and I'll discuss that in just a minute. So I put a memo out on the internet, and I put out the formula that was used. I pointed out that I contacted the FBI and Homeland Security. They didn't seem to have much interest in it, and that's the best I could do. It is on the internet. This was last November. The terrorist attack hadn't happened yet. But this cloud bomb is about, in addition to 2 miles in diameter, it's about 40 to 50 feet deep, and it's about 500 to 1,000 feet above the ground when they dissipate it's regular household fuel, diesel fuel that they pasteurize, and they can make it disperse it from the crop dusting airplane. So I don't know if we prevented that from happening or not, but anyway, I just wanted to pass that on to you. Brian Gumbel, when he was interviewing James Nichols, Larry Nichols' brother, on Oklahoma City, was approached by Jim during the interview, and Jim said, "Have you read Ted Gunderson's Oklahoma City bombing report?" By the way, I made 2 trips to Oklahoma City out of my pocket and investigated Oklahoma City. So Brian Gumbel says, "Oh, I don't have to read his report. He's a conspiracy theorist." And you know what? He's wrong. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy realist. Let me tell you something. I'm just going to go back and review a little bit of history. Go back to Pearl Harbor, December the 4th, 3 days before December the 7th, Ralph Briggs, a naval intelligence officer in Washington, D.C., received a encoded message, decoded actually, Japanese message they were going to attack Pearl Harbor. That information was furnished up through the ranks. We knew about Pearl Harbor at least 3 days in advance. And FDR allowed it to happen, allowed some 2,400 seamen on the Arizona alone to go down and die. JFK, it's a well-known fact, and I think it's been very well documented. JFK assassination was by the CIA and the Chicago mob. Sam Giancana, head of the Chicago mob, 4 days before he was to testify before Congress when they investigated the Jack Kennedy assassination, was murdered. Let's skip forward to Robert F. Kennedy. Robert F. Kennedy died in Los Angeles, the Ambassador Hotel. There were 11 bullet holes in the walls and the door, and Saran's gun would only hold 8 bullets. I happen to have received information from a good, credible source that there at one time were as many as a dozen LAPD officers who were also working with the CIA. And there's no question in my mind that the CIA/LAPD was responsible for the Robert F. Kennedy assassination. Waco. We know what happened to Waco. They brought in military tanks, murdered women and children in violation of the Posse Comitatus. Koresh made a weekly trip to the store. He could have been arrested when he went into Waco. They chose to go in and murder those women and children. Women and children, yes. Our government has no respect There are certain members of the government do, but I'm going to go into that. There are certain elements within our government that have absolutely no respect, not only for our rights, but also for the lives of innocent people. Then we had Ruby Ridge. We know what happened there. 93 World Trade Center. I have a copy of the LA Times and also of the New York Times, October 28, 1993. And in that article, it points out that an FBI informant in the trial had infiltrated the terrorist group, and he was commissioned by the terrorists to put the bomb together, 93 World Trade Center car bomb. And he went to his FBI superior and said, "We're going to use a dummy bomb, aren't we?" And the FBI superior said, "No, we're going to use a real bomb." Now, the FBI not only knew in advance of the 93 World Trade Center car bombing, they furnished the ingredients for the bomb. Where is Congress? Where are our leaders in Washington, D.C.? Why do we not have an immediate investigation of the FBI and their involvement? Okay, Oklahoma City. Do I need to tell you more about Oklahoma City? I made 2 trips to Oklahoma City out of my pocket, as I said earlier. I talked to an inside investigator who told me there were at least 11 other people involved in the Oklahoma City bombing. McVeigh, according to the government, flunked out of Special Forces. He did not flunk out of Special Forces. He was recruited out of Special Forces by the CIA and trained as a professional assassin and also to work on the CIA drug operation. He wrote this in a letter to his sister. By the way, his sister has changed her name and is living someplace in the South, I think South Carolina at the present time. We had Oklahoma City, government cover-up, and then 911. We discussed that backwards and forwards. But one of my closest friends, Michael Riconosciuto, who was with the CIA for some 2 decades, has Middle East contacts. And as a matter of fact, in the spring of 1986, Michael and I met with Osama bin Laden when he was our ally, and we were trying to defeat the Soviets in Afghanistan. One of Reagan's former top government administrators came to me, "Can you help the Afghan rebels?" I talked to Mike, and Mike and I met with the State Department /CIA agent at the Hilton Hotel. There was a 4th fellow there, tall, slender, didn't say anything, and we find out years later it was Osama bin Laden. But anyway, through his contacts and the fact that Michael was able to put this deal together, he furnished the surface-to-air missiles that defeated the communists in Afghanistan. Mike has developed a number of sources in the Middle East. Michael knew about 911 in January of 2001. Now, Michael's in prison now because he was asked by the Brooks Committee to testify in connection with the Promise software, and I don't have time to go into details about that, but that was an operation, a computer operation that tied in all of the intelligence community, law enforcement, the courts at all levels, and our government leased it from the Hamiltons, Nancy and Bill Hamilton, Washington, D.C. After 2 years, refused to pay them the $10 million. The Hamiltons sued and lost. Actually, they won, but they lost because they said they were in the wrong court. The Department of Justice then, through Earl Bryant, former owner of United Press International, took that computer operation, Promise Software, sold it around the world to the Canadians, French, English, Israelis, and other countries. And during the period, the 2-year period, the Department of Justice had that in their control. Michael was a brilliant scientist, put a trap door in it. So we sold it through Earl Bryant, we meaning the Department of Justice, to various countries around the world. Our government was able to retrieve their intelligence information without them knowing about it. Anyway, Michael was asked to testify before the Brooks Committee on the investigation of this situation, and he was told ahead of time, "If you testify, you'll be sorry." He testified, and a short time later was arrested for drugs and tried and sentenced to 30 years in the penitentiary. But in spite of this was after we met Osama bin Laden. Now, in spite of this, Michael still has the contacts in the Middle East. Michael knew about 911, and as a matter of fact, on March the 20th of 2001, he was contacted by FBI agent Keith Kutry in prison, because Michael insisted that somebody come see him. And at that time, Michael told FBI agent Kutry who the leader of the terrorist movement was in this country at that time. He was an electrical contractor in Patterson, New Jersey. Told about forthcoming flights of airplanes into our buildings and our skyscrapers. Told about sabotage that was forthcoming, and gave a considerable amount of detail. By the way, I have a report on this back in the back. And it's documented because Michael also wrote to his attorney with a block stamp February the 5th, certified mail. And in this letter, he told his attorney about this. So Michael did know this information. It's in the letter. It's in my report. Michael thought he'd done his job. 2 days after 911, 9/13, Mr. Kutry came back, accused Michael of seeking publicity, being anti-government, anti-FBI, etc., etc. Unfortunately, 911 did occur. But this is just a brief overview at basically across the board of the conspiracy. I think I've shown you from Pearl Harbor through 911, there is government implication. But what phase is our government involved? Well, it's taken me, I've been out 25, 26 years. It's taken me all of that up until about 6 or 7 years ago. I was able to put the whole picture together. The FBI and the CIA are messenger boys for the Department of Defense. This is a covert military operation. Our Department of Defense recruits from special forces, SEAL teams, train them as assassins, use them in the drug operations, and use them for all kinds of illegal activity, pedophilia, pornography. And it's all about a covert military operation. It's a secret government within the government. Now, the guy in the tie, the FBI agent that comes around after a bank robbery and asks you questions about what you saw, what did he look like, etc., that's an overt operation. Those guys probably don't even know about the covert operation. But it's there. As a matter of fact, I'm working a case right now out of Placerville, California, where a fellow named Sid Seymour, who's been in military intelligence for years, is one of the leaders of the satanic cult group there. And we have a trial coming up. His son-in-law, after 15 years of marriage, realized that his wife had an unusual relationship with Sid, her father. So he sits down and talks to Sue, and Sue tells him that he has been sexually molesting her since childhood, and even though he was married at this point for 15 years to her, he is still having sex with her. She was a mind control victim. She talked about how when they would stay at the husband and the wife would stay at Sid's home, he would come in and flash the lights, and that was her signal to get up and go in the living room or someplace else, or a bedroom, and have sex with her own father. This case goes to trial April the 25th. I've been working it with Richard Hamlin. If you want to check the internet on that, I have a newspaper article back there. Richard Hamlin. He's a former district attorney in Sacramento. He's tried over 260 cases successfully, a very successful man. But the problem with him is once his wife told him about this, you have to give Sid credit. I mean, not Sid, but you have to give Richard Hamlin credit. He took a picture of his father-in-law and a poster, wanted for child molestation with his picture, and passed it around the community, even putting it on telephone poles. So you wonder why they're coming after him? Yeah, this is full-time satanic cult stuff. And the satanic cult operation activity in this country is the backbone of the operation by the covert military machine that I'm talking about. It dovetails into the Illuminati. You know about the Illuminati, I'm sure. It dovetails into their assassinations and so forth. The satanic cult movement, very frankly, is the most serious problem our country faces today. Now, I'm speaking based on my years of experience. I was first exposed to the satanic movement on the Jeffrey R. MacDonald case. He's a former Green Beret doctor convicted of murdering his wife, 2 children, February 17th, 1970, Fort Bragg. He'd been tried and convicted and I was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences. I was asked by the defense team to investigate it after he was tried, convicted, and sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences. Within 10 months, I obtained a signed confession from Helena Stokely, who said Dr. MacDonald did not commit those murders. They were committed by my satanic cult group. I have a summary report on this, by the way. And the reason I know that Helena was telling me the truth, first of all, she passed a polygraph. Second, she told me that she tried to ride, that there were total of 7 Satanists in there that night. She tried to ride the rocking horse in the child's bedroom, 2.5-year-old child's bedroom. She couldn't because the spring was broken. I asked Helena to draw the inside of the house, floor plan. She did. I asked Helena, and I spent 30 days with Helena, 3 different sessions, 10 days each. I asked Helena, was there unusual furniture, something unusual in the house that you could tell me about? She said, well, yes, there was a jewelry box in the master bedroom. I said, describe it. She described it. So what I did is I went down to Sears Roebuck, got the catalog, and I opened up the catalog, and I said, pick out the jewelry box most likely like the one that was in the house that night. She went to the very jewelry box that was in the house that night. Helena was telling the truth. Unfortunately, this was a covert CIA drug operation. They were flying drugs in plastic bags in the body cavities of the dead GIs into military bases in the United States during the Vietnam War, the late 60s, early 70s. And this was right after the Manson murders. There were generals involved, police officers, 2 attorneys in Fayetteville, North Carolina, who were all involved in this drug operation. The cult, the members of the satanic cult in Fayetteville, were actually distributing the drugs up and down the East Coast. The higher-ups in the drug operation did not give them permission to go in and wipe out the MacDonald family. The higher-ups knew that if there was an investigation of the cult, it could expose the whole operation across the country. Now for documentation, and I like documentation. Look at Time Magazine, January 1, 1973. I went to the UCLA library years ago to pull up articles on this drug operation out of Southeast Asia. It was a CIA covert Army government operation. Okay. So, Dr. MacDonald remains in jail today. The judge, in 1997, agreed to do DNA tests. Here we are, 2005. We still haven't done the DNA test. I wonder why. They're stalling. If we can ever get the DNA tests, we know that Dr. MacDonald would be exonerated. That poor man not only lost his wife and 2 children, he's been in jail now for 25, 26 years. Government cover-up, drug operation. That's not all. Back in the late 80s, I was asked to go to Nebraska, and by John DeCamp. And so I went back and I started the investigation after the other investigator, Gary Caradori, died in a plane crash. He was murdered, by the way. And in that particular case, there were 80 children who came forward as a result of some publicity in the Omaha World Herald. The kids came forward because there were certain pictures of adults, and they went to their parents and said, that man is the man that molested me. The case broke wide open. Of the 80 parents, or the 80 children, 4 of them came forward to testify. Paul Benassi, Alicia Owens, Troy Bonner, and one other individual who disappeared. And we find out, as a result of our work and the result of information furnished by these kids, that we were then in the middle of a large-scale drug operation, international child kidnapping operation. It tied into an organization in Washington, D.C. known as the Finders. If you will pick up U.S. News and World Report 1987, on January, I think, 4th, 1987, you will see an article in there about the Finders, where the CIA denies that they're involved with the Finders. I have in my reports back there the Finders report that documents a covert CIA child kidnapping operation. I have a U.S. Customs report that states that the CIA is involved in this. I have filed a half a dozen formal complaints with the FBI demanding that the FBI investigate the Finders. It falls on deaf ears. I have even tape recorded my complaints to the FBI. This is going on right today. Once the Finders was exposed, they moved their operation to Wichita, Kansas. They're operating right now under the auspices of a church there. I'm looking for more details at this time. This also is the Franklin cover-up book that Doug Millar mentioned a minute ago, Johnny Camp. They were taking kids out of orphanages, Boys Town, foster homes, driving them in limousines from Omaha, Nebraska to Sioux City, Iowa, 184 miles away, flying them in private jets to Washington, D.C. for these sex orgies with congressmen and senators. In the early 1990s, American mainstream media wouldn't touch this, by the way. Yorkshire TV in England came over with a camera crew for 7 months, did a documentary, and it was actually, the show was listed to be aired on May the 3rd, 1994, when certain members of Congress heard it was going to be aired, and it was listed in the TV guide. They bought up the rights to the show and ordered all copies destroyed. I just happen to have a bootleg copy in the back, by the way. One of the kids who was kidnapped, Johnny Gosh. He was kidnapped on September the 5th, 1982, 12-year-old boy off the paper route, West Des Moines, Iowa. Noreen Gosh, the mother, is a fighter. They picked on the wrong family when they took little Johnny. She's written a book here. Now, the latest situation that emerges is, if you've been following on the Internet, there's information about Jeff Gannon. Jeff Gannon has come forth, and there are pictures of him in the nude with our president, George Bush, and he has false press passages to the White House. Secret Service has not even checked him out. And he is furnishing toys are little boys, homosexual prostitution ring to the White House. The headlines in Moscow right today, this morning, were the homosexual ring operating out of the White House. Jeff Gannon is Johnny Gosh. Now, what I think has happened is Johnny Gosh, who was kidnapped September of 82, put into a sex slave ring, used as a prostitute, used to help kidnap other kids. I think that he's through all these years, he's been keeping records, he's been keeping receipts, and I think he devoted his life to exposing these people, and that's how it's coming out now. The mainstream, yeah, right. Johnny Gosh was 12 years old, his life was ruined, and I think he knows it, and he's getting even with him now, today. I really believe that's the case. I don't know for sure. I know it's Johnny Gosh because I have a confidential informant that told me it's Johnny Gosh. 2 days ago, I returned from a trip to Lincoln, Nebraska. I was back there for about 10 days, interviewing some people. And the information I have come up with substantiates what I'm telling you here today. And it does not make our government covert CIA/Army authorities very happy. There have been other people who've gone back to Nebraska. Alex Constantine went back there, an author from Los Angeles here a number of years ago. And he was kidnapped and beaten and tortured. And he was half comatose in a chair for a year drooling. He finally snapped out of it and he was told to get out of town. Of course, they kicked him out of town. He doesn't remember a thing other than the fact he had to go to his mother's, and for a year she nurtured him. Nick Bryant, an author from New York City, is writing a book on the Franklin cover-up. Again, this is John DeCamp's book. It's sold over 100,000 copies. Nick left Omaha because a woman came to his motel room, knocked on the door, and said, "Your life's in danger, get out of town." By the way, the Yorkshire TV show, I said it was listed on the TV guide, May the 3rd, 1994. Well, I ordered a copy of the TV guide here about a year ago. I wanted to see it for myself. John DeCamp told me he did personally see it listed in the TV guide. And guess what? It came back. 10 p.m., May 3rd, 1994. The show is listed as Balance of Nature. Nothing to do with conspiracy of silence. So, not to be outfoxed by these people, I went to the LA Times TV log. It's listed. Conspiracy of silence. I went to the Philadelphia Inquirer. I had a friend of mine on the East Coast. It's listed. Conspiracy of silence. These people are so clever, but they couldn't change the TV logs for every newspaper in the United States. It was a little too late for that. This shows you the power that they have. And we have to expose it. The McMartin case. You remember the McMartin case, the child molestation case? Everybody said Ray Bucky and his grandmother are all innocent, okay? Well, let me tell you something. The children claimed that they were taken down into tunnels under the school, taken up into the trap door of a triplex next door. These are 2, 3, 4-year-old kids now. Placed in automobiles and prostituted in the community. And so the authorities in 1987, L.A. County District Attorney's Office, went out looking for the tunnels. They couldn't find the tunnels. You're not surprised, are you? I had an opportunity to gain control of the property in 1991. That's right. It had been given by the McMartin family to Danny Davis for legal fees. And from there, he had sold it to a contractor. He's going to build an office building on it. And I went to the contractor and I said, I want an opportunity to go on that property. He gave it to me. I hired an archaeologist from UCLA, again out of my pocket. By the way, my retirement check goes toward fighting these people. Okay? I'm fighting these people with their own money. But I earned it. 27 years. As long as I'm alive, I will keep fighting them, and I'll keep exposing them. But, so anyway, we found the tunnels, right? Dr. Gary Stickler said there were tunnels, that they'd been filled in. I called the district attorney in the middle of the second trial, Ray Bucky. By the way, he had a hung jury in the first trial. They sent a fellow named Perez, an investigator out. And Perez wanted to argue with Dr. Stickler about the fact that there were no tunnels there. They'd been filled in, by the way. And long story short, they didn't even use the evidence in the second trial. Ray Bucky was hung jury, second hung jury in a row. Okay, So what do we attribute this to? I got a rap. It's called the Illuminati. It was established in 1776, May the 1st, 1776. This is a package deal. Pawns in the game. I was given a lecture about 10 years ago. After I came off the podium, a man walked up to me, handed me the pawns in the game. He says, "This is what it's all about, Mr. Gunderson." I said, "Thank you very much. I read it. The 25 goals are there. Control the youth through sex and drugs. Blackmail your congressmen and senators, which is the Nebraska case. Control the mainstream media. They do this through blackmail also. And, of course, the Illuminati's infiltrated virtually every level of our society. They are about 4 million Illuminati members in this country today. It's about 1.5% of the population. I've deducted this from information from informants. There are 50 to 60,000 human sacrifices every year. There are 8 basic satanic holidays where they sacrifice human beings. There are others, but there's 8 basic ones. We're talking about porno films. We're talking about snuff films. We're talking about murder. They think nothing of taking a person's life. They tried to kill me back in the early 80s before I became pretty well known. I had gunmen waiting for me several times, and it's only through divine intervention I did not go there. This has happened to me 3 times. God is watching over me. Divine intervention. I had gunmen waiting for me. Well, that didn't work. Then they tried to prosecute me. Then they tried to set me up on a phony drug charge. And the girl came over to me after 6 months and said, "Ted, I want to tell you what happened. Here's the story." She confessed to me that she had the run of the FBI office in Modesto, California. They'd given her $2,000. They used her on the telephone to try to set me up, and I didn't buy it because I'm an honest man, wouldn't get involved in anything like that. And I said to Pam, her name's Pam Foss, I said, "Pam, why'd you come over to my side? You've been working with these guys for 6 months. She said, "I woke up the other morning, and I realized you're the only honest son of a bitch I've talked to in 6 months." Those are her exact words. The last time I talked to Pam, she told me she was on a hit list, and I don't know what happened to her. God bless her. Okay, so Illuminati tried to set me up on a frame, tried to kill me, the whole 9 yards. What are they doing now? They have disinformation, mind control specialists out there who are putting out negative information on the internet about me. I'm specifically referring to a fellow named Stu Webb. I have him on a videotape interview where he admits he's an informant for the FBI, and he's been given a symbol number. Another one is Barbara Hartwell, who's a CIA mind control victim. Another one is a wannabe journalist, Virginia McCullough, who are attacking me on the internet. And you know what? I don't pay any attention because my work speaks for itself. And I'll tell you another one who's a disinformation specialist. And I know this will shock a lot of you here in this room, is Art Bell. Okay? Art Bell sued me, and on the radio, on at least a dozen occasions, he told the American people that I accused him of being a child molester. I have never accused him of that. Never. And yet he put the word out. So we have these negative forces, and I think my time is up, but I have 1 minute, and I just want to thank Payman. He's one of my heroes. And in closing, let me mention this. I have a lot of reports back there. I don't bind them deliberately so you can buy them and make copies and get the word out. I want you to buy every one of my reports and get the word out. Also, I have a 5-package deal where you get the Pawns in the Game, Franklin Cover-Up, Why Johnny Can't Come Home, Conspiracy of Silence, and my Finder's Report, CIA Covert Child Kidnapping Ring, for $85. Get it and make copies. I have some dynamite interviews also. I have an interview with Noreen Gosh, Johnny Gosh's mother. I don't think I have any with me, but you can order it. I have an interview with Paul Benassi, who was used as a decoy to kidnap these kids. Paul would go out and attract the kids over near the car, and the adults would grab them. And he's also a key witness in testifying as to snuff films and was involved himself. My material is fantastic. And I urge you to buy it and get it out, get the word out. That's what we have to do today, and that's our mission right now. I don't know, I don't know how much time we have, but it's closing in very rapidly. Okay, and God bless you all. Thanks. This is all about our children and our grandchildren. That's what it's all about right now. We've got to do something. They have to have a decent life ahead of them. And the way it's going now, we have a long road ahead for us to expose these evil people. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ted. Thank you very much for sharing such an important message and for really putting everything you have on the line. Folks, we got to do something about it, and we will. It's going to take all of us taking action together. Ted puts his material out very inexpensively. In fact, I offered him that he does his photocopying even himself. I offered him, let me and my staff do your photocopying and production so you can go out helping people, investigation, and stop these criminals. That's what we're trying to do because, he doesn't have that much assistance, believe it or not. So any help you can give, he could use that. He always puts whatever he makes into helping people because people come to him with nothing. They've been done wrong, and he's trying to help them at no charge if he can make a difference. So do what you can to get information from Ted. We're going to take a break right now for 15 minutes. We're running 5 minutes behind, so we're going to start rather than 3:05 at 3:10.